My mic sound fine?
Perfect. Cool. So we're going. So perfect. So cool, Ben. Appreciate you having you on here. Obviously, I'm Matt here. I work with Jeremy at Financial Education and Financial Fortress. So this is an interview with one of our officially new six-figure case studies. So congrats on that, my man. And Benjamin, Ben, or I usually call you Ben anyway, but appreciate having you on, brother.
Of course, man. Yeah, happy to be here. Happy to answer your questions and share my testimony.
Yeah, for sure. Appreciate it, brother. So why don't you give the guys or whoever's viewing this like a bit of background briefly? What do you currently do kind of like day to day? What's your kind of situation? Where are you from? Just a bit of background would be cool.
Yeah, so from Texas, I'm actually an analyst for one of the largest asset management companies in the world. So that's kind of my full-time job. I've always been super passionate about finance and investing ever since kind of college. And so 23 years old, and that's my day to day. And been following Jeremy for probably about like 3 years or so, like two and a half maybe as far as the videos.
Sure.
But then recently, maybe like yeah, 3 months ago almost, decided to join the private group and also the coaching.
Cool. Right on. And how long have you been investing just across the board?
Yeah, so I started investing when I was 19, but that was just index funds, right? Vanguard index funds. Then I
S
started
and P kind of, yeah,
with the
exactly.
Fidelity. Yeah. And so it's just index funds didn't do anything. It was just like some lump sums and then didn't touch it at all. And then probably uh, when I was like 20, 21, that's like late 21, that's when I started saying, hey, I want to start, you know, stock picking and trying to, play a little bit in the market.
Cool.
So at that time, I had a mix of indexes and some stocks. And then now I actually just have stocks other than in my retirement.
Perfect. And then how did you like, I'm just always curious with different people, just how they like kind of find Jeremy, like
Right.
how did you stumble across,
Yeah, so I've always been huge into just overall financial education, right? And it's funny because that's, his
the name?
channel's name. And so I just like so when probably like junior year, like late junior year of college, just on YouTube watching, you know, credit card videos, right? Stumbled upon Graham Stephan and then also stumbled upon Jeremy. And so, I mean, right off the bat, right? What are the things that, stand out about Jeremy? His unique, fun character, right? And just the knowledge and how in depth it just he knows. But then as I got into more of it, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, is just how open and upfront he is about his positions and what's going on in his public account. Because as you know, and as we all know, the internet's full of scams and people trying to preach something when they themselves don't have any money on the line. So that really stood out to me. And so I started following him then. And then, I mean, now I'm actually a part of the group. So it's kind of crazy. But I'd say that to answer your
Yeah,
question.
it's kind of come full circle. And then I'm always just like, intrigued by like, you're obviously like, started out 1920-ish, right? Ballpark. How much did you have? Because I know a lot of people like, they were like, I don't have enough to start with. How much do you kind of
Right.
have? Obviously, you grew it to like six figures, but I just want to preach to people, everything we do, with investing is like long term, right? It takes a little bit of time too,
Yeah.
right?
So probably like when I was 21, I probably had like 20, like 15 or so K. I couldn't
Yeah.
contribute at all. I was a student. I didn't work. And so I couldn't really do anything. Uh, but then when I really started to work, right, was right after I graduated college. And that's when I said, okay, like, let's go, let's try and do this full time. Right. So, graduated in May 2019, got a job where I'm at today, started working and started filing majority of my paycheck to my brokerage account. And I was able to do this because I, kept track of my expenses, right? Because it honestly, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how much someone makes, it's how they spend it, right?
Very true.
So I did that. And then very slowly, by funneling money into my account, but also by making a ton of early mistakes and not being in the right group, not surrounding myself with the right people. Very slowly built that 15K up to about $30,000 in January 2020. of this year.
Cool.
And then, like we said, hit just this past week, hit in November, like November like 19th or so, hit the 6-figure mark, right? And that was a long process of being diligent, getting into the private group, working with the coaches, and just kind of, learning from all of them and going from there.
Perfect. So that segues into my next question. So you started about 3 months ago. We're in November, so October. Like, what would you say? Like July, maybe August, or somewhere
So
around there?
yes, so I officially joined the group at the end of August. And
Okay,
at the
end of
end of
August.
August, I had about 70 grand, and we'll show my account here in a second, but I had about 70 grand. And
Okay,
so it took me, right? That's 8 months. So it took me 8 months to go from $30,000
just 70.
to seven, right? And actually, let's go ahead and share it right now if you want. So I've got kind of a
Perfect.
little
Yeah.
snippet here. So right here, right? So right at the end and early September, I think it was actually in September, right? So around like September 9th.
Yes, a little
Um,
bit over 70.
yeah. So I had 70K, right? So it took me 8 months, right, to go
Perfect.
from 30,000 in January to 70K in September. I had a negative percent return balance, as you can see over here in March. Um, and wish I was in the group during that time, right? Luckily, I had the free videos, but I can't imagine where I'd be at if I was actually inside the group. When I joined the group, right, then I went from 70 to $100,000 in basically, I mean, we're nearing the end of November right now, right?
Sure.
So basically 2 months, which is insane. Um, $30,000 in 2 months compared to $40,000 in 8 months, right? And I credit all of that to just, obviously I was disciplined at the start of being able to cut expenses and contribute. But I mean, really the value came from surrounding myself with people that had more money and more knowledge than I had, which was like one of the initial reasons why I wanted to join my coaching, right? And just the pure value from the other investors in there.
Agreed. Well said. And then where are you at roughly like year to date ballpark-ish?
Yeah. So actually, we've got yeah. Okay. So my year to date is about like 40, like 45. It fluctuates. Like this past week is at like 50, dropped down to like 40,
Based
45% right
upon
now.
market
But
fluctuations.
year over year right now is at, 52%. And before, I mean, so like I said, like my year to date was percent, right? Return was negative in March. And so to go from that to hovering around like 45%, I think is pretty amazing. And then obviously year over year is not bad. And so for me, I mean, the numbers, right, tell the story, but I'm not finished yet. I'm in a really good spot. I'm learning, right? I'm building on all my foundation. So I'm really expecting to be able to continue to do this and improve because I mean, I'm only 2 months in, right? But I'm going to be a part of this program for a very, very long time. So
Perfect. Cool.
we'll see what happens.
Appreciate the screen share there. We're all good there. So perfect. So basically, I guess like my question to you is like obviously, you were doing okay, pretty solid, right? Like chipping away at it. And then you really kind of just like scaled it out pretty nicely with the market there. What would you like what was the gap for you getting to that next level before coaching and stuff in the Discord? Because like, like you work at a big company, sure you have some resources, you're a switched on guy, especially for people that are more, you're pretty advanced ish, right? Why do you need that extra like coaching? Because people, you know what I mean? Like who
Right.
really needs a coach? I mean, like you got YouTube, Google, like talk to me more about like the
Yeah.
challenges and then what was
Yeah.
kind of the thing that took you over?
Yeah, so that's a great question. And really, so there's so much, right? There's so much that goes into being a successful investor. And, kind of based on like my situation, like I'm surrounded by people that are deep into finance, right?
Yeah.
Like at my company, you have some of the largest, mutual funds in the world, right? Biggest portfolio managers who are managing billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I work a lot with the people under them, and so I'm around these people that really know the details of finance. And so it's like, okay, if I'm around that situation, like, shouldn't that correlate and translate to my own personal investing? I thought so right off the bat, but it wasn't true, right? Because there's
Pardon me.
so many things that go into it, and it's so different, right? Like, investing at that level, one, you're focused on the company's benefits, not yourself, right? There's so many process and procedures you have to follow, guidelines, regulations as far as portfolio balance, allocation. You can't jump into or go into, small cap stocks. And there's just like the opportunities, to translate that knowledge directly to yours isn't fully there. I get a lot of, my discipline and kind of start from that. But to
Sure.
really, you know, get to where I am at today, like I needed a different environment, right? I needed an environment where there was a ton of people with personal stock market like management and knowledge, right? And so that's why I joined. Like I joined is because of Jeremy created the coaching, right? Because you have seven-figure proven investors who manage their own stocks, right? And so that was my jumping point. That's when I said, okay, like let's actually invest in myself and in this and see where it takes me, right? And so it's just completely different, right? The programs are tailored. I guess I'm talking right now about the coaching specifically, because that's what I'm in. Tailored to you, right? I had a ton of struggles. You know, being able to find exciting stocks and everything honestly isn't the hardest thing, right? With my about $70,000 balance before I joined, I had about 25 stocks, right? Because I would just find stocks, super excited, bam, I'd invest in them, right? And I got, 15% return, 20% return in a short amount of time, which is pretty good, right?
Yeah, it's
But
very
there's
solid.
so much more in creating like an extremely solid account and just ultimately like managing your portfolio, right? And so that was one of my, my first um, things I worked with my coach was portfolio consolidation, right? Going through the individual, companies, cutting out some losses, chopping off the good companies and transitioning in the money into like great companies. So now I have like 13 different companies. And because of I was spread too thin before, and because of the training and kind of the work that we did, I was really able to funnel right my money
Mhm.
and reap the rewards. And also, I mean, like just mentally, the stress, the anxiety, trying to manage all that. I mean, there's so much to building a successful portfolio, and that was a huge one that I was able to work on and ultimately see the results from.
Perfect. Well answered. And then, like specifically with struggles, can we be more specific? Do you mean like buying and selling?
Yeah,
Obviously, I know you were restricted, but was it more like the psychology as well? So, like overall management. I mentioned you said like building an account is different than to picking a
yeah,
stock. So, talk
yeah.
to me specifically
Because
about
yeah, so lots of different like I said, right? Portfolio, just management struggled with, had too many positions, but then also like just like finding stocks, right? That's very hard because so many times, like in before, a lot of the stocks were popular stocks, the hype stocks, right?
that.
Talk about all over YouTube, talk about on the news. I mean, even at work, hearing about them, right? And a lot of the time, like those stocks, they're hyped for a reason. Is because a lot of people are talking about them. A lot of people have invested in them, and it's shot way up, right?
Mhm.
But why are they talking about them in the first place, right? And this is what I learned kind of through the private group, through Jeremy specifically, is um, no one's going to talk about stocks that aren't going to get views, that aren't going to get drive attention. So many retail investors get sucked into that, and it
Ah,
hurts
good
them.
point.
It sucked me into it, right? And I got
Yeah.
crushed, because I was chasing, right? And so that was a struggle I had is finding stocks. What's crazy about the private group is you have, hundreds of different people presenting their bullish theses, doing research, because we're all doing our own, research and finding different stocks and then putting them into one consolidated place, which helps the new people that might struggle with finding stocks because that's where you might see it first, but it also helps the more advanced people, bounce ideas off of each other. So that was a struggle that I had. Another struggle I had was just building out, my bullish thesis, right? There's so much that goes into it, whether it's, management style, fundamentals, investor, tons, right? Tons of different things. And so for me, through like coaching, I was able to really, excuse me, walk through step by step how to actually research a company and what to look for. And then after that, how to appropriately buy in and then, add it to your portfolio. So those are probably like three different, struggles that really affected me. And that's why it took me so long, right, to build my portfolio, even though, I mean, every other week I would funnel money into it, but it took that long just because
To
I was
compound,
working
yeah.
through those challenges that so many people struggle with.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm glad you kind of honed in on that because it's like if it were that easy, I think everyone would be doing it as well. And like that was an interesting insight too about the funneling of the hype stocks too. So talk to me more about like coaching, like without giving away the whole secret sauce, right?
Yeah.
You got to pay to play, you got to invest in yourself, right? But if you can give us like a background of the coaching, and then I'll ask you about the Discord and the private group. But like, talk about the coaching, like is it
Right.
on Zoom, like who was your coach specifically? Give them a shout out if they did a good job. Hopefully they did. I'm sure they did.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just more specifically would be cool.
Yeah. So it's awesome because, right, like these coaches, they're paid by Jeremy. He invests a lot into them and they provide an extreme amount of value, right? They don't get compensated based on, they're not like brokers, right? They don't get compensated based on what stocks you buy and
Recommendations,
all
yeah.
that stuff, right? So it's purely mentorship, which is amazing because that means their goal is for you to learn and succeed, right? So a lot of people might have misunderstandings about that. So I just want to clear the air. But
Mhm.
I mean, this is why I joined, right? And so right off the bat, you complete your screening, your basic personal information, right? And the coach is picked based on, the best fit. There's lots of different coaches, all of them extremely intelligent, extremely successful, but different, kind of different expertise, whether that's kind of
Different strokes for
smaller
different folks.
growth, exactly, higher growth, or more like extreme, like higher tier, maybe playing with options, right? Or more, focused on the really new, people with maybe 3K accounts, right? 5K, 10K, right? So many different just levels of experience, right? And so for me, shout out Bryce. He's my coach. Have
Nice.
an amazing relationship with him. But I can say that I've interacted with most of the coaches, and they're all, I mean, a plus grade, right?
Yeah, stellar.
So I was paired with my coach. I went through that whole process, right? Set up my scheduling. Again, it works with, I have a very busy schedule, but it didn't matter. They tailor the program to your needs and what time works best for you, right? So early on, I scheduled, meetings, uh, pretty consistently, right? Because that's what I wanted. Um, and then now they're way more spaced out, right? So I think that's awesome, extremely flexible. I have my own Google Drive with him where we've got all the different documents, right? Starting off, how to build the questions about companies, how to build your bullish thesis, right? Kind of starting at the basics and everything. And then as I've progressed and worked with him, I mean, now we're getting into, you know, calculating future growth, future returns, what price, right? I would want to buy it at now in order to hit a certain percent per year, right? So kind
Mhm.
of really like diving in the weeds. But again, like that was built uh, on my starting point and how I
Yeah.
progressed, right? So for people who might be more experienced, bam, you can start right off the ground running. Or for the other investor who might be really new, who might have questions about how do I find a company, right? What do I need help researching it and all that stuff, you start at that point. You're not just thrown in, right? So I think that's extremely valuable is the personalized, the personalized program for you. Uh, I talk to my coach really, I can reach out. I know he's busy, so I respect that, but I can reach out on Discord and chat to him, and I do that actually quite often, whether that's with ideas, questions, concerns. I'll just say, "Hey, Bryce," and talk to him, and he gets back to me re- like really fast, like in 30 minutes most of the times. And so that's
Wow.
that's extremely helpful because they don't actually, you know, a lot of the value isn't actually solely based on your meetings. Majority of it is, right? But they interact with you and are there for you throughout, the entire program, not just in the meetings. So those are a couple things. I could go on and on and on about
Yeah.
it, but I guess those are some of the key things that really stood out to me right off the bat. Oh, and also just recently, my coach opened up a Discord, a private Discord just for him and his coaching clients, right? And this is months after I joined. And so it's cool because I can interact with the other clients under Bryce, but it also goes to show that Jeremy, the team, is constantly trying to improve the quality of the coaching experience, even though I paid them, a couple months ago. So I just thought that was extremely cool.
Yeah. I'm glad you appreciate that. And it was something that Jeremy, well, we all do, but like especially is all about value, 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 customer service, over deliver, right? And just make sure, everyone's super stoked. Obviously everyone's going to execute and take action, but you want to give everyone all the tools, resources, and frameworks to work with and accountability with coaching, right? Cool.
Yeah.
And I guess it's also cool on the flip side because you're learning off other investors that not only have big portfolios, some smaller, but also have some skin in the game. They've invested in some coaching because they want to get better. So I bet that's
Right.
helpful too.
Exactly. Oh, 100%. I mean, that's the cool thing about the group is like it facilitates investors of all ranges, right? It's stimulating for the people that have the skin in the game, like you mentioned, right? Because there's a ton of other people like that where you're criticizing bullish theses, adding comments, questions, but also, I mean, just so beneficial for people who are just starting out, right? Who are just in the private group, because we're all there, right? We're spread across the whole world, so there's always people to talk to, always people to bounce your questions off of, no matter how stupid the question might be, right?
Yeah.
There's always someone there with a super supportive answer, which is amazing.
It's cool to have a good ecosystem where you feel safe, comfortable, and supported. Investing is like anything. It's a confidence game, right? So
Right.
it's good to have that safe zone, right?
Yeah.
And then talk about that Discord. Like, how does that work with some of the struggles that you had as well,
Right.
in terms of the private group, and where's the value in that?
Yeah. So I don't know, Stock Hub, right? Tons of people, tons of different, channels. It's just, it's a lot, right? So the cool thing about the private group is how structured and professional it is, right? You have your channels solely based on like high value input, right? Where there's a minimum sentence requirement. I mean, this is where the people present their bullish thesis, their research, right? But then you have other other different channels where it might be a group for real estate, right? There's one for options, dividend stocks. So it's not just a list of as a bunch of stocks, but it dives into the really core important channels that should be there, right? So based on your interest, you can kind of interact with those different channels, and people interact with them, with all of them. So it's very structured, it's very well laid out, and there's always different people to talk to, based on kind of your interest and also like expertise. So
Cool. Awesome. Yeah, I just want to get a different perspective on both. I'm sure they serve different functions as well. So, what would you say to the person, since we're kind of the later part of the conversation, the interview here,
yeah,
to the people who are like just seeing Jeremy, well, maybe they skip through the 1,000 videos, the 600K subs,
right.
and 3 channels and more content. Like, what would you say to the person that like wants to do it? Maybe they got a lot of money, they don't have a lot of money, but they're like, I don't really want
Yeah.
to shell out and invest in like coaching. Like who needs coaching? You know what I mean? So, like
Yeah.
from
Well,
and I know and talked about your experience before, because I know
yep.
it was a big decision, right? So it's
Yeah.
important
I
to
mean, largest purchase I ever made, right? And I wish I would have made it like 2 years ago, right? Because for so long I was focused on, I knew about it, right? I knew about it, but I was I said I just want to funnel money into my account, right? I just want to build my account, and then later once I do that, then I'll join, which is a big mistake because that
yeah
mindset was me saying, hey, I'm going to buy a stock that might go up, might go down, rather than investing in myself and my foundation, right? And so that's why it took me, even by being so disciplined and diligent, right? It took me so long to go to that 20K. Finally, after like a year and a half, right? Get to the 30K. And then
yeah
after getting a very good job, right? Took me those full 8 months to get up to 7K. And then bam, right? 30K in 2 months, right? And so it's all about, and this is like specifically for early investors, like being able to surround yourself with people that have more money, more knowledge than you, but being able to build those, that foundation, the fundamental knowledge is early, so then you can just bypass all the challenges that like myself or other people have run into where it really slows you down, right? So I would say that for kind of the newer people. For kind of the more veteran
Intermediate to advanced, yeah.
investors, I mean, what do they say, right? You're the average of the five people that you interact with the most, right? And so for me, it's like that's why, I mean, why do the Ray Dalio, right? Like Bill Ackman, like why do these major, I mean, fund managers that you would think that, they don't need help, right? They've got it all. They have billions of dollars. Like, why do they surround themselves with people who are similar to them, or better, or just coaches, whether that's mental coaches, right, health coaches, I mean, investment coaches, right? They're constantly seeking out other people that are at that same level, right? Because we all have our goals, right? But it's surrounding yourself with a a community of people that do that, right? So it's just, I mean, there's people in the group with millions and millions of dollars and just great returns and everything, but they wanted to be part of that community, because they saw the value in the people and of what Jeremy's created.
Totally agree. And then you look at like Paul Tudor Jones. I don't think a lot of people know Tony Robbins, more on the mental side and the strategy side. Been coaching him for decades, right? Guys absolutely crushed it. So,
Yeah.
you look at any athlete, entrepreneur, business person, there's always someone there to help, right? Everyone needs it for sure. Cool. I guess any like final like questions, final
Yeah.
thesis, thoughts of like, for anyone that had questions in terms of like what the process is like or anything you'd want to know beforehand. I know we kind of touched on it before, but like a
Yeah.
last little summary before we sign out.
Yeah. So one thing, like all the people in the group, right? We all have different lives, right? Different responsibilities, time commitments, families, kids, right? School. Like there's so many different things. And what's really cool about the group is, I spend a ton of time in the group, but just, I mean, that's based on my situation, right? Working from home, and so I have the private group open, almost all the time, right? But it's very just centered also around people that don't have that a lot of time, right? That have things going on in their life that they have to focus towards, because you get the big notifications from Jeremy, right? When the weekly videos are posted or the live streams um are going up, right? You can set certain notifications based on, hey, like, I don't want notifications when people are posting in these other chats, but that high value stock chat where there's big, important posts, like I'll just turn on the notifications for that, right? So then you'll know. And then later in the night, after the kids are tucked in, whatever, right? You can just quickly hop on, instantly get that value, and then you can move on with your day. So I think that's really cool, is because it's great for people that want to spend a lot of time in there, but also for people that are extremely, extremely busy, because we want to get the most out of our investment, right? Because we're investing a good amount in ourselves. And
Sure.
so I mean, that is awesome, just because there's so many different people from all around the world with so many different, life schedules.
Yeah. And it's well put. We went pretty deep. You nearly hit the 30-minute mark here, which is cool. So
Yeah.
hope whoever's watching this got some value. Guys, you can definitely do it on your own. But there is a better and efficient way. Obviously, you need to be in a good position. You need to be long term, right? This isn't like we do everything for you. We teach you how to fish. Just give you the fish is my favorite quote. It's no like stock picks and stuff like that. We're actually teaching you how to actually invest long term. But as you see with Ben and his portfolio, if you do the right thing and you execute and you follow the process, you can get some pretty good results and stuff, and get some good wins and build that momentum and confidence. And who knows where that'll be 1, 3, 5, 10, 30 years from now, which is really, really cool. So want to appreciate your time. Obviously, if you want to join the coaching, definitely, follow the call to actions on the page below. And yeah, really, really appreciate your time, brother. And yeah, I'm excited to see you, and hopefully we can do another video shortly with you at the 7-figure milestone, which would be really cool.
Love that. Thank you so much, Matt.
Appreciate it. Bye. All right.